We are recording now. So we are quiet on the set. All right, thank you everybody. If you can hear me, we are recording. This is now live. If you do not consent to being recorded, I need you to say so right now, very loudly. Hell no, I don't want to be recorded. I'm not hearing anybody. Okay, great. So let me introduce this. My co-host today is going to be Daniel Costa. He's one of the few CALEXIT people that's been working with me. We have a collection of conservatives from 13 different states around America, and it's part of an effort of CALEXIT working with conservatives around America and presidential candidates from the Libertarian Party to talk about the fact that division in America has become very bad. You know, last week we had the President of America talk about the possibility of a civil war. And one thing I noticed was that liberals were criticizing him, but they were not laughing, meaning that they know it could be bad. Additionally, 2 weeks ago, Ben Shapiro was on a blog radio show, and this guy's in conservative news. He's constantly battling with liberals, and he said, I hope someone has a plan. I hope. I'm not used to him saying hope. And I would encourage everybody to see the video. I can send out the link. There was terror in his eyes. And so what we have is people on the left and people on the right doing this. You're wrong, I'm right. You're wrong, I'm right. And the question is, where does that go? Now, going from that premise, originally I worked with Mike Martin, who's on the screen right now from South Carolina. Wave hi, Mike.
Hey.
Hey.
Thanks for having me on.
And we got starting a coalition saying, look, left and right need to recognize we disagree on values, but we better have a backup plan before it gets that bad where people start shooting at each other. And I think everybody in this coalition's recognized that the vitriol has reached a level of excitement that's dangerous and nobody's sure where it goes. And so we're going to be doing an interview with Adam Kokesh first, which we'll do in a few seconds. And we're going to ask, how does everybody feel about the option of a peaceful divorce between left and right? Yep. And another thing we want to do is, most of you are conservative. So have you ever heard of the concept of fake news? Mm-hmm. If you're conservative and you've heard of the word fake news, raise your hand.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Oh, okay. So, here in the CALEXIT movement, the newspapers said, you don't need to CALEXIT. You could never do that because you'd never get the votes. Everybody in America who's conservative secretly loves you, wants you to push your California values on them, and would be, quotes, weeping in the streets if California ever left. Now, I've talked to all of you, and all of you have said, where did you get that brain-dead, harebrained idea? And I said, every newspaper in California. And you all went, wow. Here's the thing. Maybe you've noticed this, maybe you've heard about this, maybe you watched the History Channel. There used to be this thing called interviewing the source and actually talking to people and seeing if it's true instead of just assigning motives to them. Well, California newspapers, I'm pretty sure, never interviewed anybody in conservative America. They just said that you loved us and would be crying in the streets if we left. So I'm not saying what your opinion is. We're going to ask you on video.
Yeah.
And then you're going to say, no, I love California, and I'm in Idaho, and everybody loves California too, and we would be crying if you guys left us, and oh my God, the LA Times, San Francisco Chronicle, Sacramento Bee, Sacramento TV, they're all right. If that's what you really feel, something tells you it's not. Shh, wait for that segment. So without further ado, Daniel's going to help me. We're going to start with Adam Kokesh. I will call everybody by name. So wait for your name and your state, and then that'll be your turn to be interviewed. We're going to go with Mr. Kokesh first for about 10 minutes. Everyone's going to get a turn. I promise you. You can all hear each other. You're going to get your moment in the sun. I promise you.
And please start off by saying who you are, your name, where you're from, what state you're from, and then also tell us a bit about if you're in an organization, what you're doing and stuff like that. Just a small intro.
Once we call on you. So
Yes.
I will call on you and then you do what Daniel said.
Yeah.
So first, thank you for being with us. I want to point out this is the first time this has ever been done. I know you all were very patient. There's never been this kind of conversation on video before. So with that, Mr. Kokesh, could you please tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself quickly, and then we'll start the interview. Sir, Mr. Kokesh.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Evans and Mr. Costa, for putting this together. It is really an honor to be a part of this and to really feel the synergy that's developing in American politics around these ideas that are really unifying people. So my name is Adam Kokesh. I'm from Arizona, and I'm running for the Libertarian Party nomination for president in 2020 on the platform of dissolving the entire federal government, taking it through a peaceful, responsible, orderly bankruptcy process that leaves us with 50 independent states and up to 562 sovereign native nations. And of course, we're disowning the illegitimate debt that the federal government uses as an excuse to rip us all off. We are localizing government down at the state level. We're not looking for any upheaval. We're looking to end that polarization that you're talking about, Marcus, about, liberals and conservatives in America having to see each other as enemies. And it's been amazing being on the campaign trail, seeing how this message resonates with people across the board. And I love your intro, but I would like to suggest a couple reframings, if I may. First of all, you joke about, and I'm not conservative by any stretch. I'm really, really down the middle libertarian. And I think what we're doing here, the concept of localization transcends the left-right spectrum. It transcends this artificial divide spectrum of partisanship entirely. And when you say, oh, well, you don't love California, I'm from California originally. I love California for all the things that I look at in California politics. I understand you're being a little tongue-in-cheek, you're being a little facetious, and it's funny. But we love you enough that, and I know it's me being facetious, speaking on the collective we of, not California, America, but like, we love you enough that we want you to have the California experiment.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you want to do, not tied to the rest of the country. To me, that's the unification of localization. That's what's bringing people together. That's what's more American than anything else that we could do in this country. Declare our independence and say, we're not going to be a part of this bigger system anymore. And the other thing is that what we're addressing with this is often sort of sidelined as a political curiosity. The people who want to tinker with the system in some meaningful way, but I see this as fundamentally different when we're talking about localization and or secession, anything that's redrawing the lines, that limits the geographical monopoly that governments have. It's that centralization of control that leads to corruption. And we can see that, and we can make that case in like this conversation. I'm afraid for people like me, like, and I know Marcus as a friend, going back a little while here, like, we're really nerdy. Like we really are the weirdos in society today. So I'm like, no. I'm not just going to accept all these bullshit political answers. I'm gonna solve the Rubik's cube. We're gonna come up with a solution as big as the problem. We're gonna apply something meaningful here. And we get caught up in that insider baseball, nerdy, technical discussion. But the challenge, I think, for us is connecting to make this a popular movement, to connect it to real human needs that motivate us. And we are all motivated out of love. We are all activists. We are people who are motivated by a deep-seated sense of injustice. When people ask, like, why am I running fundamentally? It's because I just see that I am in this position. I see this opportunity, and I can't stand idly by while my family is suffering.
Right.
And I would say my immediate family suffers under government in some very specific ways. We're doing okay. I'm not complaining, but I look at my family of the American people, and I go, oh my gosh, if there was one single thing I could get out of the way that's holding us back, the federal government getting us to live in harmony and respect and American values for each other's right to self-determination at the community level, because this is just the first step. If California can be independent, why can't San Diego, why can't Orange County, why can't whatever subdivision say we don't want to be a part of your bigger scam anymore?
Yeah.
And we are the only ones, therefore, addressing a realistic solution. And I'm so glad that you mentioned in your introduction, Marcus. Who was the podcaster you mentioned there?
Ben Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro, thank you. The name is
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro is one of the top podcasters in America. Distinctly conservative mindset,
Right.
very sharp, very big platform.
And to California.
I hope, yeah, and I hope that he, you talk about him turning to hope. I hope that he would come and listen to this, and he would interview people like you, people like me, people who are offering a radical solution. And it's not radical in terms of being extreme. It's radical in terms of the true meaning of that word, striking at the root of the problem. And when the American people, so many of us are living paycheck to paycheck, can't afford what we know we're capable of for medical care. When we have people in our families who are destroyed by family law courts, when we have jobs that suck because of government regulations, because of control of the market and manipulation through corporatism, when we feel all of that self-autonomy that is robbed from us, what we're talking about here is taking that back, and I hope we never forget it.
Let me ask you. So you are not opposed to there being a national discussion? Seriously?
Sorry, excuse me.
Just a second.
Just a second, sorry.
That's
Sorry,
what happens
guys.
when you try to do a first of its. That's what happens when you do a first of its kind. Bear with us. I promise it'll look good on the end.
It also happens on the BBC too.
Why don't we have video anymore? Just cut off.
Is there a button to press to go back?
I have this.
I see your video.
Well, you do, yeah. We're still online.
I still have I can't
I think you've just
see.
simply shifted. Go to like control.
Give us 1 second.
Where? A button here?
Yeah, I see you. We can still see you, Marcus.
Yeah, we just want to have the full
This?
screen show up on
Pick the speaker video.
the TV so that the recording's right. There you go. We're almost there. Give us just a moment.
Adam did a great monologue,
That's
but
not the right
there was a knocking
screen.
sound, and fortunately I don't hear it right now, but it was a repetitive knocking sound.
This is weird.
Even after people muted, it was
Leave
still
Let's leave. Let's just.
audible.
You know what?
I guess it's gone now.
Let me
so
log
we're
back
okay.
in. Let me log back in real quick.
I
Real quick.
prefer not.
Real quick, I can log right back
I'm
in.
afraid we're gonna lose.
No, we're not.
We're gonna lose a whole group. I think.
Can
Well,
we?
maybe you're right. But we'll have to look at it.
Give us 1 second.
1 second.
Red State, thanks for making that comment. Yes, there was a knocking sound. I heard that. Although Adam's speech was able to go over that. Give us 1 second to try to figure out how to get the screen back on.
Can't believe the phone call did that.
What about we just? What about if we just use that?
I don't know why it's not reloading the Zoom. There. Okay. I'm gonna get back right now.
Give me 1 second.
1 second. Should allow.
It's actually 877.
I guess this is it's keeping this in.
Let's just use that. We've spent enough time on
All
this.
right.
So, can you guys hear me? Can someone, Adam Kokesh, could you talk?
Yeah, but then we
Yeah,
can't see.
got you, Charlie.
We can't. Oh, there
Okay.
we go.
All right, and then move
There we
that
go.
screen to the. There you go.
There we
Okay.
go. Okay. We're
Real
back.
quick test, just to make sure we're good. Elliot Axelman, can you say something real quick?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, great. We're gonna just continue. So we're going back to Adam Kokesh. We'll finish up, and then I'll call on everybody's names. Mr. Kokesh, let me ask you a question. You feel that it is okay for there to be a national dialogue about a peaceful divorce option rather than just allowing us to gradually approach civil war. Am I getting that right? Is that fair to say, sir?
I think it's inevitable, and I think the people who are attempting to suppress it are shameful for doing so.
Okay. Now I know that you love us in Arizona, and I love that. Let me ask you though, when you talk to regular Arizona people, are they saying things like, "Boy, I love California, and I am not sick and tired of them either"? Or are they saying perhaps something like the Arizona Senator Martha McSally suggested, that they build a wall.
Yeah, build a wall between Arizona and California.
Do a lot of Arizona people talk like that in your experience?
No, I do think that the polarization that we're referring to in general with this is a real phenomena, but it's also way overblown by the media. Most Americans are more or less in the middle and sick of it. And they're pretty open-minded. In the age of the internet, they know we're capable of so much better. One of our campaign slogans is "America is too good for this government." At what point does it just become so goddamn embarrassing that you have to say, no, we're not going to do this anymore?
When you've traveled around the country and you've talked to a lot of conservatives, sorry to keep pounding on this, but
Sure.
do you generally hear conservatives saying, "Boy, I love California, and I love how they try to push their values on us"? Or are you hearing something different from your travels around America speaking to libertarians?
Well, one of our slogans that resonates the most is people from San Francisco shouldn't be writing laws for people in San Antonio. And yes, that's a reference to Pelosi. And that resonates very well. But I think what the only resistance that we get to this message is from the nationalist militarist type. And they're a very small minority right now. Because most people, when you present to them the ideas of the founders of a decentralized militia-based defense, rather than any kind of standing army, most of them go, yeah, that makes sense. And the idea that having the military makes us less safe is something that I can back up from personal experience, not just theory, but from when I was in Fallujah in 2004 with the Marines, and we literally made enemies faster than we could kill them. The war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, they were engineered that way. Yeah. And people are starting to see that it's not worth it, that we don't need this, that the founders were right on these basic principles in opposing a standing army. So this idea of localization, that's why I love calling it the everybody gets what they want strategy. If you're in a conservative state, you're in a liberal state, well, now you don't have to fight over the centralized solution, whatever it is, immediately, without having to argue about what that ideal should be, you get a more customized experience of government.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and Adam, I just want to let the others know in the audience, you served in the military, you're a veteran, and so you really know what you're talking about when we get into the wars and the senseless wars in America. And this is something that's on both sides. I think that people believe on both sides that these endless wars have to stop. I mean, they're not justified, and we can come together on just that view alone. Yeah. But this whole panel, what we're doing here is to say that in general we have very different values, and we're not judging the other side's values or our values. But when we come to agree that we disagree on that, what we can agree on, I think, is an independent California where we're not pushing our values on other states, and other states are not pushing their values on us. So we're trying to get a peaceful divorce, saying it's not working out.
Respect.
Yeah, mutual respect.
Politics, no way.
Yeah. We can say we don't get along anymore. The marriage is over. Let's stop fighting. Let's just stop fighting with each other and go divorce. Go on your way. Go. I wish you well. And it's not about naming one side. That you're ignorant, the other side's ignorant, because we both disagree exactly at polar ends of that. And if we agree on that, then we can agree that letting us go possibly is a good thing, but at least a discussion of it. So
and the anti-militarism angle of our campaign and our message in general with the Libertarian Party, and I encourage everybody to check it out, lp.org, and of course my website, thefreedomline.com, 3 words, you can find our campaign website and everything else about me. But what I want to get at here is that this anti-militarism angle really is one that unites us. I think in the age of the internet of global connectedness, we can see the crimes of our governments, and they can't really be hidden from us. You can't lie to people the way that you used to be able to get away with, to get millions of gullible young men to meet in the middle of a field where none of them live and kill each other because they're wearing different colors. And you just go, no, that's absurd. Like, I can't have it. Whatever. War has always been a racket. Poor men dying to line rich men's pockets. Whatever we can do to take their toys away, that is so powerful and so unifying. And I don't want to rely on the appeal to authority, like you should be anti-militarism because, one Marine Corps combat veteran, said that. You should get it because you understand it from your own reason and your own logic, and understand why the founders were opposed to a standing army, why we'd be better off with a national defense system that's decentralized, that's responsive to the people, that's defensive, that's never offensive, that makes us safer, that doesn't create enemies throughout the world.
You realize, Adam, we're going to post this video. You're a Libertarian candidate. You just had a bunch of liberals clap for what you said. I can't edit it. It's going to go out there. So I hope that's okay.
I love getting attacked for associating with people from all over the spectrum. Like
progressive.
Progressive.
Okay, so
to quote George W. Bush, I'm a uniter, not a divider.
Nice.
Hold on, just one more thing to Mr. Costa's point there. What I learned from my personal experience that I think really is worth sharing and understanding is that militarism is a cancer on the warrior class. It is a perversion of that noble spirit of willing to put your life on the line for what you believe in, to be willing to stand up for justice, to take risks, to do what is right. And everybody who is in this conversation right now is embodying that. And when people say thank you for your service, I'm really careful to say, well, hold on a second. And I'm glad neither of you said that, because I know you guys are too wise to thank me for serving bankers and politicians and war profiteers. You understand that. Because that's what I say every time I get that opportunity. Someone says, thank you for your service. Oh, really? Really? Do you know who I was serving? And that spiritual realignment, it really is in some ways, it's got to be led by warriors again. People who are willing to say, you know what? I not only have the moral courage to do the right thing, but I have the intellectual courage to identify the right enemies. They are not the people facing you in the trenches. They are the enemies back home in the capital.
Definitely.
Clearly, that's what it is in the United States.
And Adam, just to expand on that point, is we were talking with Marcus earlier, just casual conversation, but it's become in this country taboo to say anything against the military, the men and women that serve, because we have to stay politically correct. We're not against the troops, we're against what the U.S. is sending them for, and stuff. And it's true, we are not against it, but what we are against is sending these young people to fight a war for the wealthy, for the rich, and put them at risk, and you'll have the other side saying, how dare you say that about our troops? How dare you saying that they're exposing their lives for no reason or whatever? And that's kind of an argument I think we need to have on both sides of the aisle, that we're not saying the people that are serving are bad, but their purpose, the reason they're being sent and risking their life should not be for these purposes. This should be for defense. This should be there. That's what the pride of the military, the Navy, is to defend the country, not to go and occupy another one, with no reason. So just
at an individual level, at a deep spiritual level, we are all in our lives in the course of becoming our best selves, seeking full self-actualization, full realization of our autonomy as individuals. And a lot of people are fooled by militarism into thinking that joining the military is somehow stepping out of that, is somehow taking charge of your life, and it's not. It is the exact opposite. And that effect of propagandization is so sad, because they fool you it really in what it means to be human, the value that you get out of life itself, of being able to manifest your own free will, and to see the perversion of militarism as the biggest thing that is holding humanity back from that. I mean, there's so many complex factors, but if I could point to one thing, statism, militarism, this idea of violence and being okay when it's done on behalf of a politician or a collective or some bigger decision-making process. You know, don't hit, don't steal, don't kill unless you're a cop, an IRS agent, or a soldier. No, that's nonsense. Ethics exists for a reason. And that's what's so beautiful about this movement, because it's not about state secessionism. It's not. That is just the first step. That is just the immediate practical thing that we can do to unify Americans against the people who are holding us down from Washington, D.C. to say we are going to respect states being separate, but it's the principle behind that. It's the transition of government away from this unjust authority to community-based government. So like in my platform, we talk about the authority that we're destroying in taking away the federal government's authority. Again, peaceful, orderly, responsible bankruptcy process down to the states. But what happens next? As soon as that's stabilized, we get down the states, down to the county levels, maybe down to the cities. But that's at the point where they more or less reflect communities. And a community is a voluntary group that you can come and go from as you choose, that you take part in because you decide that it betters your life, not because you're being forced into something because you happen to live somewhere or have been born somewhere. That's the goal. That's humanity. We have embraced ethics over the last tens of thousands of years and come so far, and we have gotten to this beautiful point where we just make this exception for government. And getting past that and uniting humanity and the love and the respect for each other's self-determination. Freedom is what you have when no one is forcing their will on you at all. And when we can stop doing that through institutions of government, that's how we elevate humanity. That's how we get to grow that autonomy, that sovereignty, that self-actualization in every single human being on the planet. That's what this is about.
You know what, Adam, I just have to point out, you sound more like bleeding heart liberal right now. So,
Whoa. Hey. We want him to still be able to run. Okay, so Adam, one more minute, last minute. Yeah. Question from the audience.
Yeah. Can
you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Walk up closer so
you can walk up here.
Yeah.
Hey, Adam, what's up, man? Shankar. What's up, bud?
Hey, great to see you like this.
Yeah. Hey, so I heard you speaking earlier in the intro about localism and volunteerism and how it's essential to being libertarian. I was wondering if you could just say a little bit more on that. What exactly localism is, what volunteerism is, and how it plays a role in being libertarian.
Absolutely, yeah. So these are two terms, I really appreciate that, because these are two terms that I use very specifically, and I don't always get the opportunity to really expound on that application. But when I say localization of government, I mean taking it apart from the top down. I don't mean just sending out functions. That would be decentralization. We're taking government's authority and sort of massaging it out. I'm talking about, you cut it off a layer at a time, and you get that power back down to the communities directly. So to me, that's what I say when I talk about localization as a matter of policy or as a sort of political, I hesitate to say ideology, but strategic approach to applying ethics to government. And then the other term, voluntarism, yes, is often misheard as volunteerism, but voluntarism specifically is the idea that all human relations should be voluntary. And this is a central philosophical tenet in libertarianism, which is not a political philosophy so much as it is an ethical philosophy. And it's really based on the idea of self-ownership. And some people think of libertarianism as individualistic or selfish, and there are some lenses by which you can view it as such, but you could also see it through the lens of relationships. And that's what the term voluntarism addresses in saying that human relationships should be voluntary. They should be free of force or fraud or coercion, which are the premises under which governments operate, but that they should be peaceful and cooperative, and that you own yourself, and that this is the foundation of ethics. So to violate my self-ownership, to assault me, to limit my freedom, to take my life, to take my property that's associated legitimately with that, those are violations of my freedom. And this is based on that ethical premise that we describe as voluntarism. And that's the ideal world that we seek as a libertarian. When you say, I'm a libertarian because I believe in freedom, even at a very shallow level of definition, well, what's freedom? It's what you have when no one is forcing their will on you.
Right.
So if no one's stealing from you and no one's assaulting you and no one's murdering you, only then do you have a free society. Freedom is about universal nonviolence. And that's why I like the term voluntarism as a specific lens of describing that core ethical ideal.
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks for clearing that up for all of us.
One more quick question, quick answer, and then we're gonna get on to the rest of the panel. Yes.
Okay, I'm Hannah Miyamoto. I'm from Oceanside, California, and first thing I want to say, are you familiar with the song "Shipbuilding" by Elvis Costello? Because what you
I'm afraid not.
It's a great little protest song Elvis wrote when the Falklands War happened, and he talked about exactly what and also Oliver's Army, which of course says, and I'll say it right now, one more widow, one less white nigger, right? Elvis is Irish.
Hey,
Elvis is
stay
Irishman. No,
to
seriously.
the topic. Stay to the topic.
Oh no, seriously, go listen to it. But because I think it will be inspirational to you. But I also wanted to say that what you said about I think it was actually what Daniel said about sending people to go fight fight in other countries.
Yeah,
right?
occupying other
Occupying other countries. I mean, are you aware of how California? I actually give a presentation. We're talking more about this. I'll encourage all the people on this channel to listen to our work soon coming up. But that California was exactly one of those countries where people were living peacefully, and the United States Army came along, and the United States Navy came along, and occupied it.
Yeah.
1846, 1847. And so in many ways, we have to wonder now ourselves whether the United States belongs, not that California belongs to the United States, or does the United States belong to California?
That's
Okay.
a good one.
Adam, any last thoughts? Last comments?
Comment, response to that or anything?
Do you have a response to that, sir?
No, I would just say that I really appreciate this opportunity. What you guys are doing is so important right now, and it really is. I mean, I think you guys are all warriors. Everybody who stands out says, "I'm willing to take some risk to stand up against the system of injustice." And we all take different risks, and we all have different roles to play.
Yeah.
But this is what is holding humanity back from living our best lives, from being our best selves. And I think we all take that as a calling as activists. Again, motivated by a deep-seated sense of injustice. And when you understand the alternatives that we're capable of compared to the central authority that we live under today, it really is absurd. It is insane that we allow people to exploit us the way that we do. It is insane, and by Einstein's definition, that voting Republican and Democrat, we keep doing the same thing
exactly.
over and over again and
Well
expecting
said.
different results. That we don't look outside the box to things like CALEXIT, to state independence movements, to all of these means of reorganizing government and challenging it on its premises. It is so exciting to see that humanity is breaking through this barrier right now, and I think what you guys are doing right now and what this conversation represents is the start of a much bigger conversation that I hope it only takes a few decades. I'm very optimistic that we'll get politics out of the way of the rest of human extension.
We're trying to speed that process up.
One last quick question.
Yes.
Well, once upon a time there was a country called Lithuania, and now there is a country called Lithuania, but in between, in the run-up to World War II, it was occupied by the Soviet Union until during the process of the perestroika in the 80s, they voted to secede, as was their right under the Soviet Constitution. And for years that was not accepted, but not that many years, because a few years later, the Soviet Union ceased to be. Okay, its largest republics followed Lithuania's lead and dissolved it. Okay, with the CALEXIT, if California, we do succeed in reclaiming our sovereignty as the Lithuanians did theirs, do you see us as the first domino to the United States going into the same dust heap of history as the USSR?
Oh yes, absolutely. And I think that's one of the best reasons for it to happen and to support it. And one of the reasons,
Whoa!
and one of the reasons that this is the way for this to happen, and that I think, again, as a mechanism of localization, is that we're not forcing anything on anybody. This is the mechanism of achieving this with the least of people.
Yes.
The federal government of the United States of America is not going to last forever. It's obviously unsustainable for a lot of reasons, mostly financial, but also in the way that it depends on a certain public deception that is wearing thin at this point. The question is, as the American people, how are we going to end it? Are we going to apply solutions based on the problem? Are we going to face up to this and avoid a Soviet kind of dissolution? Are we going to avoid what was worse in the collapse of the Roman Empire?
Yeah.
I think we can. I think we will. And whether it's a campaign with a platform like mine, or it happens state by state, I don't particularly care, as long as the injustices end as soon as they possibly can. And I'm very optimistic that humanity's experience of the world, just in general, of intelligent life itself, is accelerating. This is tied to Moore's law and the exponential increase in technological capacity. That a big part of this is, I'm 37, so I'm on the cusp, but I identify with the younger generation, so I like to call myself a millennial. Yeah, this is the millennial generation coming into power and putting our hands on the steering wheel of society and saying, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to put up with problems that exist for lack of information. And if we feel like it, we're going to draw all the goddamn lines on the map.
Yeah.
To better serve our needs.
Yeah.
We're not going to, because it's always been done that way. We're going to keep doing it that way. Wait a second. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
No way. And just being alive right now, it's such a beautiful time to be alive and be a part of this shift. So, whether it could be California that goes first, it could be a campaign like mine. It could be Alaska. It could be Hawaii. It could be the Republic of Texas. It's hard to predict, but it is exciting to see that California really is in the lead right now, and it's because of the work of people like you that have really pushed this issue in California. And this is, like I said in the beginning, about getting away from the political insider baseball and the nerdiness and the analysis. We really have to remember that what we are doing is saving lives, and if you want to count them, just look at how many people die in America every single year based on the FDA's manipulation of the pharmaceutical market. That unsafe drugs are allowed on the market and pushed, and safe drugs are kept off the market that could be saving people's lives. Just to say that, all of the unnecessary military adventurism, the drug war, how many lives are ruined in the drug war? How many families are destroyed because of family court cases that are the product of warped incentives that come from the federal government? What we're talking about here is not just our clever playing with the Rubik's Cube and trying to make things better for everybody. It's saving lives. And the difference between pulling this off and making this shift happen, as I think is possible in the next couple of decades, as opposed to the next couple 100 years, is the difference between taking tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people with us who might not get to the other side of this if we don't fight for this now.
Great. Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
thank you so much. We're going to move on to the other people. Thank you, Mr. Kokesh. Okay, we're going to go with Elliot Axelman because I see you with Liberty Block. So put your thumbs up if you can hear me, Elliot. All right.
Yes, sir.
Elliot, would you quickly introduce who you are, the organization you're with, and then we'll ask you a few questions, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much for putting this together, of course, to everyone in this room and everyone at this conference. You guys are all incredible for doing this. Like you said, it's the first time ever. My name is Elliot Axelman. I moved from New York to New Hampshire 2 years ago to pursue a life of liberty, and now I can live much more freely. I was raised quite conservative. I'm becoming more libertarian by the day due to the incredible inspiration by politicians who are ever increasingly corrupt, and they get worse, and I realize how bad they are all the time. And what I'm realizing more each day is the polarization. While Adam said it is somewhat overblown, obviously media fans the flames, I've seen it, and I've seen real people like you guys, but less polite, who are really nasty.
Yeah.
There are people who really want to force their way of life. What I would call, no offense to you guys, I would call leftist, I would call socialist, I would say progressive and left.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Say what you feel.
Yeah.
Say what you feel.
Yeah, there are people, roughly half the country, give or take 50%, 45, 55%, who want what they want, but they also believe that they have to push it on me. And are these people evil? I don't know. They're progressive. But once we educate them, people like you guys and us, once we educate them and make them realize that they can have their California progressive, maybe even fully socialist way of life, and we can also live happily, and that way we can both be apart from each other and stop beating each other up and trying to force our way of lives on each other. We can actually all be happy. And again, do I think my pro-liberty conservative policies would work better? I do, but I also think that a lot of people on the left would be happier in a left-wing state, and that's fine. So I want them to be happy, and as I get older and maybe even less aggressive and everything, I really do want people to actually be as happy and as peaceful as possible. Maybe 5-10 years ago I would have said, screw those leftists, I don't want them to be happy. Now I want California to leave, not only so that we don't have to deal with laws made by people like Pelosi and Maxine Waters and Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein, who's been trying to ban guns for 40 trillion years in the Senate now, every year trying to ban more guns. But not only for that reason I want them gone, they shouldn't make policy for me because I live 3,000 miles away in a different universe, New Hampshire and California, different universes, but also because I actually want, not Diane, but you guys, I don't like her, I like you guys though, I want you guys to have happiness. I really do want, now that I'm getting older, I just want everyone to enjoy what the freedom, the happiness, and the peaceful lifestyle that they want to enjoy. I've gotten to a point where, now I'm going to brag a little bit, I've gotten so open-minded and tolerant as I've become more libertarian, even things that I don't particularly enjoy myself, tattoos and weed and drugs and this and that and partying and flag burning, I'm not big into it, but just seeing people doing what they believe is freedom, seeing people exercise their biggest freedoms that I know most of the world and 99% of humans in history could not enjoy, I love seeing that. I love seeing people enjoy their freedom. As many libertarians say, especially I think Austin Peterson and Gary Johnson, I would love to live in a world where all of the gay couples can protect their marijuana fields with all their fully automatic weapons they want. Pure and I'll admit, I'm not the biggest, pro-LGBT guy marching from the right. I'm just not. I'm pretty conservative in my own house, but it's a freedom, and I want everyone to be able to enjoy every freedom because, like they were saying, Soviet. Again, I'm not the expert on Soviet Russia and all that. Adam knows more about that than I do. But in Russia, China, in the past, in the U.S., people couldn't be, they couldn't be with the partners and marriage they want. They couldn't do other stuff. They couldn't do the drugs they wanted. But I love now in the U.S., now our freedom is decreasing, but still in the U.S. we have more freedom than nearly anyone else in the world. So I just love seeing freedom in general. Even freedom I don't like. I don't love progressive politics. I don't like socialism. I'm not big into marijuana or anything. I don't smoke anything. I don't do drugs. But I love seeing it. When my friends talk about cannabis now, it's a little different than 5 years ago. Now I still don't do it, but I kind of love seeing them exercise their freedoms. So I want everyone in California to pursue the progressive state and live in the state they want to live in. Because right now you have federal policies you have to live within. And you have some California policies that are progressive up and beyond that. But I'm sure there are things that Trump is doing, like with immigration, which he's not quite as successful as he might have thought he would be. But there are some policies, there are firearms policies and taxes and foreign wars. Most Californians are not pro-war. There are things you have to deal with. So if you can be happy and have your total progressive state and be a sovereign nation, because you are a sovereign nation, because as I say, every week on the Liberty Block, I find myself saying state and nation and country are synonyms. They really are synonymous. Even in our mother tongue of Hebrew, they're synonymous. They're the same exact word. For all of history, state and country have been synonymous. Republic of Texas, Republic of California. So we really are all 50 independent nations being forced by a terrible, increasingly corrupt, disgusting, centrally powerful federal government that just abuses us all and takes our money, and we are forced to pay for the abuse. Mm-hmm. And it just gets worse all the time. So every day I feel even more strongly that the only key to ever having happiness and to stopping the increasing divide politically between the horrible polarization where we see, actual from Antifa and the left and the right and people clashing and people actually dying and some being attacked, horrible things. The only way to solve that is peacefully separate. And we've written articles and mentioned this in videos and podcasts about divorce. And we think about divorce. We have, no full divorce now, but even if you're beating someone, if one partner is beating the crap out of each other and really hurting them, and we'll talk about extortion, obviously they're taking 40, 50% of my money. They have billions of laws I have to live by. They're abusing us. The government's abusing us. The left and right want to abuse each other. If there is such an abusive relationship, it's best to peacefully separate. I've had breakups that were good and bad. I've seen my friends break up. There are some good, some are bad. The good ones are a lot better, right?
Yeah.
Amicable divorces. And there are some really bad breakups. There are some really, really bad breakups where they only leave when someone dies or something, or when someone is beaten into a coma or something like that, or when someone cheats or something. So there are good ways to split and bad ways to split. Let's do a nice, good, peaceful separation, and that would actually make me like Californians more, and then I would come visit you guys. Because right now we resent Californians, and I don't like speaking for others, but I'm pretty libertarian, but again, obviously I know a lot of conservatives. Almost every conservative believes that if California could go, a lot of them aren't hopeful that it could happen. They believe that if California could secede, they would absolutely support it. In fact, they would even donate money and time to it.
Let me zero in on that. You're saying you run Liberty Block. It is a well-known libertarian, by California terms, conservative. Yes, I understand. Not everybody in conservative America agrees with that, but Californians and our limited understanding of the different variations of gray of conservatives. You run a conservative site, libertarian, speak to a lot of people. You're saying in your experience, conservatives would not be upset if California left? I want to make sure I get this correct.
Yeah, exactly. And people were ecstatic. And like we mentioned, we've spoken about this. We've done a few polls on Liberty Block. We reached a few thousand, and there were a few other polls in other states. But our fans on Facebook are mostly conservatives and libertarians in the New Hampshire area. Almost all of our fans on Facebook. We have 1,800 likes now. And our posts can reach between 10,000, 40, 70,000 people on various posts. So every month we're reaching thousands of people. And we did polls, I think, twice, and they were both right around 88% supported California leaving. Not even like discussing it. 88% said California go, and they said some nasty four-letter words.
Right.
I see there are women there, so we're not going to say the words. But they said some words like F yeah, go, please go, build the wall, around California. So a lot of that, around 88% to 90% in every poll that I've seen in New Hampshire and throughout other states, asking conservatives if California should leave. And when you remind them, that's where Pelosi and Maxine Waters and Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein come from. And once they're gone, they will no longer be in Congress. That might shoot up to 99% support, right?
Okay.
Great.
All right. Please stay around. We're going to have some more questions. I want to keep moving on in the panel. So, just for giggles, I'd like to go to Lazer Axelman in Wyoming. Lazer Axelman, are you there? If you could just... Lazer, hey! Hey! If you could tell us briefly who you are, your background, and then we'll ask a few questions.
Well, Elliot's older brother, so off that, I'm going to take credit for anything good he ever says. Whether I get to or not, that's my role as his brother. But I began the Liberty Block with Elliot back east. It was a radio show until it became a website, and we both left that area so we could keep our radio show. I mostly stepped away from it and moved across the country, and Elliot mostly took over Liberty Block. So I write for the Liberty Block still. I work and function on Liberty Block as editor-at-large, so I play a role in a lot of the articles that do wind up there and write when I have the chance. I moved out here for the same reason he moved there. I was stuck in New York, and it's awful. Came to the great state of Wyoming. God bless the great white buffalo. But out here, it became even more evident very, very quickly just how important, I think, like Adam was talking about, like my brother mentioned, simply not, I'll go past CALEXIT, and I do think that it has to start there, but I've been a strong proponent of just overall secession and dissolution since about 2004, 2005. I pushed it then, I was called crazy then. By 2012, I was called less crazy. Turns out, not actually that crazy. But I moved here, and you drive through the state of Wyoming, and there are just huge signs on the sides of highways that say, "This is beef country," or "Eat beef." And then you look at states like New York, where I was living, California, where you guys are, and the biggest, newest things coming out are the Impossible Burger and all the non-meat proteins. It's an entire different planet. It's a different approach to life. It's a different set of desires, almost a different set of ethics entirely. They're simply not compatible. And there's an interesting book called American Nation by a guy named Colin Woodard.
Yes.
In which, have you read it?
Yeah. 13 nations originally from America. There was never actually one American people.
Exactly. So he, and you can agree or disagree with his particular breakdown. I think he has some good points of that. But he divides America into 11 completely separate peoples. And they are. And you really can't compare how somebody lives in southern Alabama to how somebody lives in Oakland, how somebody lives in rural Minnesota, where, I mean, they're practically Canadian. It's just it's a different lifestyle, it's a different everything. And they're entirely incompatible. Now, one of the reasons that I love what you guys are doing so much is because I personally believe that California, Texas, and Alaska are the only states that can secede. Wyoming would love to secede. Wyoming is unfortunately landlocked, and we can't. So while we have tons of natural resources and financially we actually do better than almost any other state, we don't have a high population. The population here would love to see California gone. Population here would love to see California gone so much that they want to donate Jackson Hole, Wyoming to California. They can take that piece with them because it's just
Wow. Hey. So let me just be clear that I'm hearing this right. You're saying you live in Wyoming, you've talked to people in Wyoming, and nobody said, "Oh my God, I would be crying in the streets uncontrollably if California ever left." Am I getting this right? People aren't saying that, or they have the exact opposite opinion? You tell me.
Wyoming, California is the C word you don't say.
Oh, okay.
Then what did they say about Diane Tyson?
Wow. You mean cauliflower? Cauliflower? Yes, you don't say cauliflower in Wyoming.
Don't do it.
Okay.
So I was actually having a discussion with Elliot because he brings up Dianne Feinstein. We got into a discussion maybe 2 months ago, and I wound up looking up all of the publicly available NFA numbers to see how many states own how many NFA items. It turns out Wyoming has the most, what do they call them? I believe ordnance devices or explosive devices in the country by like 900%. The average person out here is armed like a military.
Okay.
But,
California.
Yeah.
Things like that. And people here hate it because when Californians push legislation, right, bringing up Feinstein again, when she pushes legislation saying we need to ban ARs, and then the price of ARs goes up everywhere, it's the people here who suffer because those are the rifles they used to teach their kids how to shoot because they're simply good rifles to teach people how to shoot. They're easy to disassemble. They're easy to understand. It's a good learning rifle. Every household in this state has at least one AR. I personally own several. Everyone I know has at least a few. I know people with 30 or 40. They build them, they sell them, they trade them in club. So that California legislation going in and trying to ban everything or trying to restrict ammunition sales, all of a sudden those prices soar. It hits people in Wyoming.
So let me get this straight because you hit a point here that again you feel that California is pushing their values on Wyoming and on other conservatives that see that, like you said, we're practically from different planets. Sometimes, except for our language, we can come together on. But what you're saying clearly is that because California wants to push their values that you don't agree with and stuff, you would be more than willing to let it go. It would be better off for you, for states like Wyoming, you would be better off.
100%. And there are, I would say, less than 10% of the population in Wyoming would argue that point. This is a state that, again, I consider myself strictly a constitutional libertarian, a little L libertarian. I align with the party. Sometimes I don't party. Sometimes I am registered to vote as libertarian since I turned 18. I kind of sit on the fringe of even what the Libertarian Party is. But the state of Wyoming was over 70% for Donald Trump in the last election. But by very, very far, numerically speaking, the reddest state in America.
Oh, really?
This is a state that would happily, simply because it's that old cowboy work ethic, literally get into their trucks, drive to like California, and help you pack if you're
Okay.
Yeah, wait, check. Do you want to hold the question till later or no?
Super quick question that won't
Come up.
Oh, it's just a question.
Yeah, quick question, Shankar, please.
So, I guess both of you guys are brothers. Well, the Wyoming person, Lazer, right? I
Lazer.
love your name, by the way. Lazer.
John Flag.
Very, very California name, by the way.
Don't tell him that.
So-
That's an insult.
So, according
Yeah.
to the IRS, according to the Census Bureau, according to the IRS, Department of Labor, Wyoming has the 6th worst economy coming up next to right behind Kentucky, meaning that your state takes in more tax subsidies from the federal government than actually what you're being taxed. So whereas California is the other way. We're actually a donor state. We help support your state. We give you billions of dollars, maybe millions of dollars in that way. If we leave, if California leaves, do Wyomings understand that they may, lose some federal funding?
And
So,
do they
yes,
care?
However, with that said, and this is actually a big debate in the state of Wyoming. So if you actually, on the numbers say that, but you have to ask why. And if you look at a map, a tremendous amount of Wyoming is actually considered federal land. So one, we have the largest reservation by area in the United States of America. We have the largest native reservation, the Wind River Reservation. It's larger than most northeastern states. It's tremendous. It's several hours across. So that is obviously every single penny pouring into there is a federal dollar. Everything. For the several hospitals that sit on Wind River, all of the funding for the tribal police departments, everything. So there's millions and millions and millions of dollars being poured into Wind River, and they're not putting anything out because they're not taxed, which is why the casinos there and things like that. So right away, at a massive discrepancy, and California doesn't have 1,000 square miles like that, where it's just 100% being poured federally, and there's no money coming out of it.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's,
Yeah, that's
50% of California is federal land.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We also have Yellowstone National Park, which is the largest national park area. We have the Tetons. We have national forests. We have national everything. A lot of Wyoming is nationalized, and so a lot of that is federal dollars going into it. And it's actually a huge debate in current Wyoming politics over whether they should really be trying to take that stuff back. And the opponents of it primarily say that, well, when there's a wildfire, those federal funds really help put out the fire. Whereas those who say they would love Wyoming to take all of that stuff back and make it Wyoming again propose exactly what you just did, which is that it actually hurts the economy when all of the money going into Yellowstone National Park, for example, is partially going back to the federal government, and it's all run by the government, and then it's all federalized. And the federalization of those things also means that it impedes lands for ranching, which is the primary moneymaker out here, along with oil and coal. So a lot of things are also impeded because there's so much federal land that the people in Wyoming then can't use to boost the economy with things that we could otherwise use to boost the economy. We're the largest coal producer in the United States. Is coal on the way up? Yes. Good news. We're also one of the largest wind producers in the United States. There's oil. We have uranium mines up here. We have silica and neutrino mines. It's a very, very natural resource-rich state. But unfortunately, a combination of A, a lot of it is federal, so you can't touch any of the resources there. And B, because especially in fields such as coal and oil, where there's all the environmental protection agency stuff going on nowadays that just makes it so much more expensive to actually get those resources and make use of those resources because of all the extra regulation that goes into anything such as building an oil well, or if you want to expand a coal mine or anything like that, the sheer amount of hoops that you need to jump through now. If you look at the Keystone XL pipeline from a few years ago, and all that discussion was to bring oil from one place to another, which is a major moneymaker in the state of Wyoming, has become an unbelievable resource and money heavy effort. And so that's part of why the Wyoming economy has taken a downturn.
Lazer, be honest, how much federal welfare do you get right now? You and your neighbors. I know you guys rely a lot on federal welfare programs. Once California, who's in that donor, leaves, won't you be hurt?
Right, exactly. Most people here won't feel it. Now, we have lower income areas. The average person in Wyoming, this is a place where kids roll out of high school at 18, 19 years old, go to work in the oil field, and at the age of 19, they're netting $120,000, which is more than the average American would got. So this is a place where if they're allowed to just work, they're allowed to just work, and people are always shocked at the amount of money that there actually is out here. And you show up here, and people in Wyoming have Ferraris and have $100,000 trucks. It's because if you're willing to work, we have the natural resources, we have the environment, so plenty of ways.
Lazer,
As someone without a degree like you, without any fancy degree, you can't really afford a house, right? And you can't really afford to eat well and have a house and a nice truck, right?
Of course not, but
Yeah.
Okay.
So Lazer,
just
we're just gonna end on this. So what you're saying basically is you don't feel that California, by a large economy like California, leaving would affect Wyoming much as far as the
I think
the help.
in terms of federal dollars, no, because the federal government will still dole out the money it always does by doing what it always does and simply enhance a budget ceiling into more.
All right, good.
Make money out of it because that's what they do. So it wouldn't And I think that it could potentially be the catalyst for other states to finally get cojones to step up and say, well, if you guys took your whole state back, we're going to take our forest back, we're going to take this back, and maybe we'll take the state back.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Everybody.
Okay, South Carolina, Michael Martin from South Carolina. South Carolina, Michael Martin.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, Mike, if you would briefly say who you are and what you do, and then we'll ask you a few questions, sir.
Yeah, my name is Michael Martin. I'm from South Carolina. Lived here my whole life. And I met Marcus back in November, last November in Texas at a conference on secession. And I'm interested in secession just because my state had a party that was actively promoting secession, but they weren't really interested in the principle of it or the history of it. They were really just doing it as a reason to go and hang the Confederate flag. Well, the group got involved with a lawsuit and they disbanded. And I told Marcus, I teach South Carolina history to kids. I'm a teacher, I'm a family man, and I want to really associate this with some positive things and show that left and right can work together. And I do want to say as a disclaimer that I think I would rather work with you guys to break down the power of the government than see a secession, because I think the government really has grown out of hand in the past couple of decades. And just to show you, I want to address a couple issues that some people brought up. Like sure. Elliot was saying, he wants to live in an America where every state, the people are allowed to enjoy their freedoms. Well, I could give you a concrete example of how California is trying to impose their ways on the other states. If you remember, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama, they passed bills that said they wanted to protect life at conception, basically. They wanted to recognize life very early on, and they wanted to protect, baby fetuses, and try to prevent abortions, basically. And California, a bunch of people came and said, well, we're not going to shoot movies there. A lot of Hollywood stars came out and got involved. It became like a real moral issue. Somebody associated with CALEXIT, I think, even wrote an article back then about Civil War. So I think things have been getting bad for a long time. I mean, California, all the candidates that are running for president from there are pushing gun control. And the last time I looked into it, I saw that California's had more mass shootings than any other state. I saw that they had like 20 mass shootings since 1982 or something. I'm interested in this for the principle. Like, I would fight and die for your rights to live your life however you want to live, as long as you would reciprocate that to me. And I feel like we're not at a point like that because the media is dividing us every day. And it's becoming to the point where it just feels like it's all a show to me. I don't think it was a coincidence that major government people were involved with pedophilia and all these other things, and then there were 3 mass shootings back to back, and the news cycles just changed to racism and guns. Something is obviously going on. We all know something isn't right. And I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about the history of why we have a good point here. Just the other day, I saw that the American Thinker, they published on their website an article that said if there wasn't an impeachment, there would be blood. And honestly, it's just really getting out of hand. And this could be a peaceful alternative. If you study American history, when we won our independence, the Treaty of Paris from the King of England, he recognized all 13 states as sovereign and independent. Okay? And our first government before the Constitution, it was called the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union. Perpetual means forever. And they dissolved that government and signed the Constitution before all 13 states agreed. That's why if you read the Constitution, it says it only takes 9 states for it to go into effect. It doesn't take 50. The Constitution doesn't say anywhere that it's indivisible or perpetual. In fact, the guy who wrote the Pledge of Allegiance that said the United States is indivisible, his name was Francis Bellamy, and he was a socialist. So if you look into the history, like, we're just being lied to every day. And the Constitution, it actually lays out that we're meant to have 1 representative for every 30,000 people. Well, right now, we're living in a system where we have over 300 million people, and we have 535 representatives total. So when we reach 1 billion people, that will be one representative for every 1 million people. That's not a republic like the Constitution lays out. It's really not a democracy like all the media says that we are. We're basically living in an oligarchy. I mean, the same people stay in power.
Yes. Hello?
And it's really time to come together and start asking some questions.
Yes.
We really need to come together on this. If we're not going to come together on any issue, then we need to just be mature about it and let each other go our separate ways so that we can stop imposing these things on ourselves and feeding into the division. Because there are some forces at work that appear to want us to be divided.
Yeah.
And who knows who it is. I mean, the media, they're not saying anything positive ever. Every day is just negative, negative, negative. They focus on shootings and negative things every day. They don't want us to come together and ask questions. That's the biggest thing that they're scared of. So if we're not going to come together for anything else, let's just go ahead and come together to say that we can separate and go our own ways and govern our lives at a more local level, just like Adam Kokesh was saying.
Great, great.
So the main question, right, is
It's still the main question still. So what you're saying basically is, just so we're clear on it, you would be okay, and conservatives like yourself, because you have a relationship with them, would be willing to let California go, so that we can have our own values and not influence you, and you can have your values and not influence us. Would you be willing, and other people, other conservatives, be willing to let California go? Because it's always been saying that other states will never let you go. So I just wanted to get a point of view from a conservative nature of how you would feel about that.
Well, yeah, my secession group, Palmetto State Independence, we have been on the record since about February saying that we support California secession, and we think a lot of conservatives would fall in line. I could tell you that we have associations with a couple major Southern publishers. All those people personally, I can tell you, support it. I could tell you that I'm involved with organizations like the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and these are good, hardworking people that just want to protect Southern heritage, and they're interested in the history, and secession is a part of that history. And just because of that, I could tell you I've talked with countless people that will say, yes, I would let them go, because not only would it ease the tension in the country right now, but it would also get people thinking a little bit differently about the American Civil War. If you haven't noticed, the South kind of has a fascination with the Civil War, and it's because we were talking about these principles that we're talking about right now since the early national period. Like, literally, you can look up, there's articles where they've said in the past few years that California sounds a lot like John C. Calhoun, because they nullify everything the national government does already. So,
that's true.
We need to really rethink how we do federalism, because if one state is withholding money from another state just because they want to pass a certain law, well, then that's not real federalism. And, somebody asked the question about, well, would my state be concerned about losing some federal funding? I think if we really examine the financial system, I think that there's a lot more to that question, because when you look into it, California has more debt than any other state in the country. They have more homeless than any other state in the country from what I've seen. And we all know the problem is with the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is making money by loaning money to the government. So we don't have a sound financial system, kind of like Lazer said. And I think if it did come down to we weren't going to abolish the Fed for something else, I'll gladly pay a few extra dollars if I can sit in my house and feel comfortable with how I'm living my life and not be judged by the liberal media and things like that. So I think it's a question of how much are you willing to pay? Like, can you put a cost on freedom and liberty? And I certainly don't think there is a cost. I think that we're ready to see that happen. So I'm really looking forward to working with you guys.
Great.
For Mike Martin, we have a question from the audience. But before we get to that, I want to ask South Carolina, do you feel that most Southerners that you've talked to would not care if California left, even if it meant a loss of some funds. That retention of their values is so important to them in the South that they'd be willing to take whatever losses come with California going. Mike Martin?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a cost that a lot of Southerners are willing to pay. I mean, I can tell you, I see every day, Southern heritage has been under attack. I can tell you, I'm part of a weekly newsletter. I've sent it to Marcus, and they keep track of every week schools that have been changed, statues that have been vandalized or torn down. And these things are fine, but to me, it's something that's been very recent in history. Like, if you ever heard of the President Eisenhower, he had a portrait of Robert E. Lee in the Oval Office, and he thought that, you know, he was telling people that Robert E. Lee was an example of a statesman, and, you know, he was fighting for his state. And people have really radically reinterpreted a lot of our history. And I think that at the end of the day, it's not a question of morals. You know, I think it's a question of morals or money. I think it's a question of principle. I think that this is the right thing to do because the government is just way too out of control. We see it in every aspect of our lives. I mean, they're regulating how much water can be in your toilet. They're monitoring everybody's phone calls. Everything, you know, you can't really have freedom of speech on Facebook or YouTube anymore. All these things are censored. It's just getting worse and worse. And I'm not saying California is the main driver, but like, for example, there was a protest here in Charleston to tear down a monument, and it was being led by a group called the Independent Media Institute. And they're not even from here, guys. They're a big-time liberal establishment, probably getting money from George Soros or something, based out of New York. And they come down here and they bandy about a lot of racist language. And they want to start something, like they want to agitate people and hopefully start a fight so that they can say the statues are what causing the problem. And so I've seen it myself. You know, I've seen that there are outside people that want to agitate us. And it's not just in the South. It's on a national level. It's on a political level between the parties. So that's my solution. I say we just come together. If nothing else, for the issue of secession, we'll gladly pay the cost.
All right.
Great.
Well, hello everyone.
I can also answer that question.
Yeah, well said.
Real quick, we're going to take a question from the audience, and then Elliot, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, two things. One is I'm Hal Lohr. I'm the new chairman of the board for Independent California, and I'd like to make a statement first on this was when the federal government, being a donor state, when the federal government says they're going to withhold money from us, that's for policy purposes, or to punish us for policy. Remember, as a donor state, that means they're picking our pockets twice. Just something to keep in mind. It's like they're already not giving us back as much as we put in. To match that, they're going to keep more of what they already stole, and that's not, to us. That's not, we in California, that you'd have to agree that's not fair twice.
Sounds
my
like
question,
extortion.
What's that?
Sounds like extortion.
Yeah. My question actually goes, I've heard Nancy Pelosi brought up a lot of times, and I'm not a big fan myself. I'll say this, I'll say that.
We all hate her.
Well, as far as
We agree that we all hate her.
I'm not going to go that far. Question. The question goes, would you be willing though to agree that if a congresswoman from San Francisco should not be making laws for people from San Antonio, does that mean that a senator from Louisville should not be making policy for people from Los Angeles?
Of course!
Of course.
I mean, seeking agreement on this?
Yes.
Okay. Mike Martin
Thank you.
first, and then we'll go back to Elliot. Mike Martin, opinion?
Yeah, again, I mean, this is something that goes back far in our history. I mean, this is an argument that John C. Calhoun was talking about. He was saying, look, the South produces most of the raw materials, but we pay most of the tariffs. And, you know, I think that we're in a situation where, yes, California is paying more into the federal government, but they have a lot of other problems that we're not even talking about, and we're dealing with the financial system that is designed to crash. Literally, since the Federal Reserve has been created, it's just overseen crash after crash after crash. Study the history of paper money systems. They're not designed to last. We're seeing transitioning to Bitcoin. We're seeing a lot of other things. If you follow Donald Trump, if nothing else about that man, he's been attacking the Federal Reserve daily. Okay, and he's really said a lot of things and waking up a lot of people to the problems that we're facing. So, you know, look at the Constitution. It says that a dollar is a certain measurement of silver, not a Federal Reserve note. The only thing that is giving our money system power is our faith that those paper dollars are worth what they're saying it is. So we need to go back to what the Constitution says and make a more sound money system to begin with, in my opinion. I mean, if they can cancel federal student debt, why are we sitting here arguing about the amount of money that California puts in if all the money doesn't mean anything anyway?
Okay. Response from Elliot in New Hampshire, and we're going to go to our next person. Elliot, please.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I believe Shankar asked Lazer a good question about California being a donor state. Number one, I have heard from, I believe, people in all 50 states that they're net donor states. Everyone thinks they are. Is California? I do believe that they are. That's fine. I'm not going to say they're liars. Anyway, number one, federal money is not good, it's bad. It always comes with strings attached. For instance, when federal government gives money to New Hampshire, so to speak, in quotes, they're giving it to us they're giving it to our police, DHS grants to New Hampshire State and City Police to make sobriety checkpoints and to abuse us with cameras and sobriety checkpoints and immigration checkpoints. We'd rather the money not come to us at all. Secondly, once California leaves, the goal for all of us is not just CALEXIT. That's only the first domino, like we were saying. Mm-hmm. Once California leaves, that'll give impetus for Texas to leave. Once they both secede, every other state can be sovereign again. That's what happens when every state is sovereign, like Adam was saying. There's no more federal government. When there's no federal government, there's no federal tax. What is the single biggest expenditure? Not even the biggest tax, biggest expenditure for all people in the U.S., for the average person? It's federal income taxes. For me, it was $25,000 in federal income taxes. So the federal income tax, FICA, Medicare, I consider them all federal income taxes. They are. Once the federal government's gone, they're all gone. So Shankar, good question, but I'll be saving money on the net because I'll have $20,000 a year, 25% more in my pocket once the federal government's gone.
All right.
Good point.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to go to RSS. RSS, Red State Secession. Red State Secession. Hi.
Yes.
All right. Now, Red State Secession is asked to keep his identity private.
Okay.
That's why the video's not showing, but he is here. Red State Secession, would you quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll ask some questions?
Yes. I'm not a libertarian. I'm a Christian conservative, a social conservative. I live in the Midwest, and I promote the idea that we should help any U.S. state secede, California, Texas, any U.S. state, because I believe that'll give us a precedent for the rest of the states to secede. I think if a red state seceded, then other red states could join it in a federation of red states and preserve the American parts of America. Or, on the other hand, if California seceded first, maybe some other, that'd be good enough. But if other blue states joined it, then we would have even less Democrats in our Congress. It would make America more American again. So,
Please go on. Please go on. Please.
Yeah, I want to tell you about my experience with CalExit. When I started 2 years ago promoting CalExit to conservatives in red states, now my Facebook page has 6,200 followers. In 2017, half the comments were people saying that they would rather conquer California if it seceded. But now, in this year, when I was promoting it, the comments were much different. First of all, 95% of the response was positive. And secondly, instead of saying they wanted to attack California for seceding, they were saying that they had given up on it, they were disgusted by it, and that they wanted, they're already starting to they see it as a a third world country, a foreign country, and that they would like it to go along with their politicians so that they're not infecting us with whatever they have. So I've seen a real change in the last 2 years because conservatives feel much less powerful now than they did 2 years ago. They've seen that their ability to put a president into office wasn't able to produce the results that they expected, and they really feel underpowered in this power struggle that we have between left and right in America. I don't see this power struggle as normal politics where everybody's looking for solutions together. I see it as a power struggle between two tribes, two teams, the blue team and the red team. And two other trends that I've seen is there's much more, even though it's still a minority, there's I've seen a doubling or a quadrupling of the number of people on the right wing that want war because of their frustration. And but I've also seen, like, when I talk to people at church last year, when I would talk to people at church about splitting the country between red states and blue states to be separate federations, separate countries, people thought it was strange, but this year people like the idea. And so, people's first thought when they realize that democracy is not working, or they feel conservatives can't win in America, their first thought is war. But when you explain the idea of secession, I'm actually getting a lot of positive response. Great. But I feel like the secession movement's really underpowered. We don't have many donors, we don't have many volunteers, activists, and the message is not really getting out. And that's what really concerns me, because, I mean, there's right-wing groups planning violence. The FBI in the newspapers, it hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but they're discovering just by accident cells of like Adam Waffen cells that are really murderous, with building bombs in their basements. And there's definitely going to be a lot more bombings and shootings happening than there has been recently. From the right wing.
And on that, it's a great point you bring up, because this whole conference call and all of us getting on there is because we want to do it in a peaceful manner.